Okay, good afternoon, good morning, or evening, whichever applies to your time zone. We're excited to have you join us for the IFLA CPDWL webinar titled Transforming Libraries, Navigating Rapid Technological Shift and Emerging Community Demands from RFID to AI. As the IFLA CPDWL session chair, I'm delighted to welcome you to today's session. And this webinar reflects our dedications to fostering global collaboration within the library community, made possible by collective efforts and support of the 4 IFLA Regional Division Committees from Europe, Latin America, the Caribbean, the Middle East and North America, and Sub-Saharan Africa. Today's session is dedicated to examining and comprehending the role of AI in the evolution of libraries under the theme Transforming Libraries, Navigating Rapid Technological Shift and Emerging Community Demands from RFID to AI. If you have any questions for our speakers, please don't hesitate to use the Q&A, the question and answer functions of this Zoom webinar to submit them. The recording of this webinar with the PowerPoint files of the speaker can be found on the event webinar webpage later. And please mute yourself for good quality recording. Thank you very much for your cooperation. And don't forget to click the CC button, the closed captioning button of the Zoom webinar to choose subtitles in your preferred languages displayed on the screen. Please note that while the translations may not be flawless, it can assist in understanding the content. Now, let me introduce you to our esteemed speakers who will be enlightening us with their insights. We are honored to have with us Dr. Ray Pan. Dr. Ray Pan is an educational librarian at Oakdale Graduate School of Education in California, serving the needs of teachers and graduate students. His extensive experience includes roles at prestigious institutions like New York Public Library and New York University, Shanghai, at American Library Association presidential candidate for 2025 to 2026. Dr. Pan also contributes his expertise to IFLA, guiding the continuing professional development and workplace learning sessions. Joining Ray is Santiago Villegas-Ceballos. Professor Santiago Villegas-Ceballos is a trailblazer in digital transformations within the library sector with an engineering background and expertise in library science, marketing, and social innovation. He has led over 40 international projects. Santiago currently serves as the director at Medellin and is a key figure behind the Shelf.tv, a platform dedicated to enhancing cultural access. His philosophy is to merge technologies with a human-centered approach, fostering community empowerment through libraries. So right now, let me have our time passed to Ray Pan. Okay, so Dr. Ray Pan, would you please start the presentation? The floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much, Helen, and thank you for the invitation, and want to thank everyone for making time to be here today. It's such an opportunity here to come together to talk about this topic. As shared earlier, my name is Dr. Ray Pan. I am a librarian and a professor at the Alder Graduate School of Education, and I've been involved in the IFLA CPDWL since 2015, and so it's great to be part of this series to discuss this topic that I am not an expert in, but I am someone, like all of us here, have been thinking about these tools and how they apply and impact libraries and how we engage and teach our students and our colleagues about the implications of these tools. So I also wanted to recognize a colleague, Adriana Blancarte Hayward, for translating the slides for me. These were actually used initially from Google Translate, and then she, as a native speaker, checked it again in Spanish just to make sure that it made sense. Because as we know, even tools like ChatGPT or any other AI or translation tool like Google Translate is not perfect, and you always need to have a native speaker to just take a look at. So a little bit about myself. I am a librarian who teach information literacy, who support collection development. I teach teachers, people who are graduate students becoming teachers. And I'm someone who's been very investigating into the research service. So as a solo librarian, I support all of my graduate students, about 450 in California, in the United States. And one of the things we had looked at is how a tool like the generative AI ones will affect students in the classrooms, not just the graduate students, but their classrooms, like where they're teaching, whether that's in special education or in social studies or in mathematics. And so we came up with some syllabus guideline statement that I'm going to share later that you can see and learn more about the process. But for the most part, I've been a librarian for about 17 years, working in different libraries, as Helen shared in the biography. And so this is a great opportunity now to engage with teachers. And so I work at the Graduate School of Education, at the Alder Graduate School of Education, and our goal is to train, retain, and support excellent teachers. Our graduate students are all over the state of California in different placements. We have partners, maybe they're in a unified or a district school in Los Angeles or in Alameda County in the Bay Area or in Central Valley. And so California is pretty big and diverse. And so when they're placed in these different classrooms, like you see here, some of the images, they're also getting their master's degree in education and then taking some workshops that I teach or I lead or some of the seminars that I teach. And so they are learning online, but then they're also in person in these classrooms learning to be a teacher for 1 year for the program. And then they will usually get a job opportunity to work at that school. And so then the question is, how does AI affect their learning as a graduate student? And how does AI affect their classrooms? Like, what are we seeing right now? So that's something I'll share a little bit later. So as I mentioned, I'm not an expert in AI, but one of the things I had noticed in 2019, before the pandemic, there was an article I wrote for Online Searcher. It's called Brace Yourselves, AI is Here to Stay. And so this was based on a couple of things, based on a lot of the conferences I was seeing. A lot of people were talking about it more then as well, but more on the technical services side, more on the digitization side, using AI to help with OCR, optical character recognition, when it comes to digitization, for metadata indexing, for discovery purposes. And a lot of it was more conceptual and a lot of it was practical. So now what we're seeing is the tool is becoming more pronounced and prominent within the public service area. So information literacy, research service, readers advisory, and the operations of the libraries directly because they're available, right? Than before, which was using different types of tools that you need to either create like a chatbot, and now it's very, very different. But this was the article I written, and what I saw was many discussions about it. And I had a feeling if it weren't for the pandemic, I think generative AI may have been introduced much sooner. And that would have been interesting to see if we didn't have the pandemic and we went straight to the AI revolution or changes that we're seeing now, then that may have happened because OpenAI, this company that introduced ChatGPT, Dolly, it was around since 2015, and it was introducing a lot of different tools for testing purposes in terms of translation, right? And now we saw it in 2022, 2021 when it started coming out. So I think the pandemic definitely slowed things down, but certainly it would have been interesting to see how it would have affected if we did not have the pandemic and went straight into this moment we are in today. So let's talk about the issues about these tools. So this is something we talk a lot in my school, which is thinking about how tools like ChatGPT, which is a generative AI model, which is a sub AI of AI. Generative AI is a type of AI. So there's also general AI and traditional AI. But the generative AI using large language models, generally LLMs, they're called, which is really analyzing the data model sets that it's pre-trained. So it's getting a lot of data that's available in the internet to a certain extent. And as a result, what ends up happening is that it ends up hallucinating it potentially. If you ask ChatGPT, I think many of you have heard or used it. It's a prompt where you can have this conversation or get sort of answers, text-based. It ends up creating fake citations and publications. So then we talk about the issue of how do we address it proactively. And then there are questions about the privacy aspect, because in order to have and use these tools, you have to create an account. And then it's collecting information, right? It's becoming one that is trying to uh, answer your questions, but also collect that information, the data that's collecting, which is basically when you create your user account, right? And so then there's sort of really deep concerns that people have been asking and talking about. But on the other side, it's been really supportive of a couple of factors: people who are multilingual, people who are not emergent bilingual, people who are emergent bilingual, which is a term that in education, if people are um, speaking one language at home and different outside of home, right? And so so it helps with that. But then there's also people with learning differences. So we're thinking about people might be having trouble with reading or understanding difficult texts. So something like ChatGPT can be really helpful with the translation, with the support of the literacy, but also people who might experience ADHD, attention deficit hyper disorder, right? So it's like really important to recognize that sometimes a tool like this that a lot of students have told me has helped them. So it's an ongoing discussion, right? Like whether it's very, very good, and sometimes there's some issues to think about. So I think you think about the questions you need to ask yourself in terms of policy in your institution. Many institutions have not figured out what to do with this with these tools, and that's pretty normal and pretty standard from what I'm hearing and seeing. Whether you're working in a public library, a school library, a special library, or academic library, it seems to vary based on the context there as well. So the question you want to also ask yourself is, what do your administrators think? What do people in the leadership think about these tools? And what do your faculty colleagues think if you are in a university setting? And what do your students think if you are a school or a university setting, right? So a lot of questions to ask yourself. And so one of the questions you also want to ask yourself is, if you're in a school and university, is there something to think about plagiarism and cheating? Because that's something we have traditionally in the library have supported in terms of addressing this by providing citation tools and research guides on how to cite your sources, your evidence. And so this graphic came from Matt Miller, who works at Ditch That Textbook, a nonprofit for education. And then he created this graphic a while ago, but I think it's really helpful to look at this and ask yourself these questions about which of these would you consider cheating, which of these is relevant to our students' future, and which of these would you use in your work as an adult. And then this on the top here says bot created. And then at the bottom, it says here student created. And then it has a bunch of different examples, right? So the first example that is closer to the bot created says student plugged prompt into AI, copied response, and submitted to teacher. I think we all agree that that is not original work. That is something that is, bot created, and a student is doing this. Now, you might be asking, well, why would a student submit this kind of assignment? It might be allowed in maybe a computer science class that's exploring ChatGPT or some sort of tool, or maybe an AI ethics class, maybe to sort of have students use the prompt, right? And then just to see what they come up with. But then it gets a little more complicated. So AI created a response, student read, edit, adjusted, and submitted. This could be maybe for a music and technology class, right? I've heard about this, that some of these other classes want to have students explore these tools. So does this count as sort of cheating, or is this something that is not as depending on the context, not as a problem. Student created multiple AI responses, used best parts, edited and submitted. Same issue. Student wrote main ideas, AI generated a draft and offered feedback to improve. And then now we're heading towards where student created. And then it gets more complicated because if student consulted the internet or an AI for ideas, then wrote and submit, does that mean that it's allowed or not allowed? Or does it help us understand how these tools are being used? So the point of this graphic is to share how complicated it is. You cannot just say something is plagiarism or something that is an issue. Certainly, we know that AI tools like ChatGPT have been using these proprietary information, like information that's available online, sometimes from places like Reddit to BBC to the New York Times. And the New York Times currently right now has a lawsuit against OpenAI as well as the Getty images because it's taking away some of the information that journalists, freelance artists, and all the other folks are using. So if students are using these tools, that's already having issues with with intellectual freedom, with not intellectual freedom, with copyright issues. Do we see this do we want to encourage that, right? And so it's something to think about. But the whole point again is to think about where we stand, and it really depends on the class and the program and how far you're thinking about that context in your institution. And so at my institution, we look at the syllabus as a good starting point to create an AI usage policy. So this is the example here. I worked with a social studies professor and a mathematics professor, and then a graduate student, because this graduate student has a PhD in computer science. So in a task force, we discussed what is it that we want our school to allow and to follow through our students. And so we ended up saying that, okay, they can use the tool, but they must cite the tool in APA format, which is what we use. And they must also paraphrase. If they paraphrase the response, then it helps us understand that they understand the usage of these tools. So we're allowing it, but we also want to caution that these tools are not meant to replace your own learning, but to be used responsibly and to enhance your own learning and to align with your course assignments. And it's important to recognize that we want to encourage exploration and using these tools to experiment for your learning because it will impact their work in the classrooms. But we also want to state that there are issues. We don't bear any responsibilities for using these tools because there are misinformation and content generated in third-party sites. And in addition, these tools also have had data breaches. So OpenAI had a data breach in May of 2023 of last year. So that means people who might have an account, that information is leaked to somewhere else. If you had the premium version, that is also meaning that you have your credit card information stored, you're using the paid version. That information is likely at that time taken to different groups. So unfortunately, so hopefully that doesn't become an issue going in the future. So I just wanted to say really briefly here that for CPDWL, we've been exploring this topic in different ways. We had an interview blog post that you can read more from Rebecca Hasty, who is based in the American University of Sharjah. So she does a lot of workshops, a lot of classes in this university located in the UAE. And you can learn more about what she does with these tools. And then we also have one where I wanted to highlight about different schools that are using ChatGPT. What are school libraries, school teachers, what are the tools available for free? So I highlight that as well. And I will share the slide deck later, as well as Helen mentioned, will be on the website. So again, there's a lot of questions about these tools. They are available, they are very convenient, but at what cost? And certainly we don't embrace or we don't avoid, but we should certainly have this conversation. And every institution will vary how they want to use these tools. And so a question you want to ask yourself is, how do you see these tools impact your jobs, your work, or the profession, library jobs in general? What do you see are the main areas of concern for AI tools from a library perspective? And how should our students think about ethics in AI? Because if we're not talking about it, it's very likely that no one else on campus is or in your institution will be talking about it, right? So the library can serve as that model to have that conversation because we are always providing a lot of resources and services related to information, but we also want to stick into our core values, our values of what it means to provide information access, whether that is from the American Library Association or from IFLA, whatever core values that your institution embraces for the library side, that's what we should be bringing into this conversation, because they say technology will change often. So we're seeing right now generative AI tools, but previously it was search engines, right? And previously it was like the internet or social media. We're seeing all these different changes. But the most important thing is to note is that values, they endure, they stay, and they help us make these decisions or think about these issues more critically. So again, thank you so much for listening and giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts. I'm happy to connect if you have any questions, and want to thank you all so much again for letting me share. Oh, Helen, you're on mute.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you very much, Ray, for that insightful presentation. And we are now turned to our next speaker, Professor Santiago Villegas-Ceballos. Santiago, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Helen. Let me share the slides now. Okay, that's it. So, first of all, I have to say thank you to IFLA's Continuing Professional Development and Workplace Learning section for your invitation to share with all of you today, especially the chair, Helen Chan. It is an honor to be here, and even more to be able to share the stage virtual this time with whom I admire so much and who I hope will be the next president of ALA, Ray Pan. To summarize my first slide, let me put my first slide. This is about me. I don't want to talk a lot about me, but I want to tell you that I'm a grandson, a double nephew by 2 aunts, and son of librarians. So I born in a family of librarians. That's why I was kept in libraries instead of kindergartens from a very early age. And that since then I have all the love for libraries and its ability to transform worlds. In short, my nerdy face comes not only from a librarian family, but because I decided to study engineering before librarianship and complement it with marketing and social innovation in master degrees. Okay, so if we are talking about artificial intelligence, we need to start with a definition. In April 2024, this is the usual definition for artificial intelligence. The general aim of AI is to create systems capable of executing tasks that require human cognitive processes. That is why we call it intelligence, even although it has nothing intelligent in the human sense. And I have the first question to exemplify this. I hope you help me answering this question in the chat or through the comments of the transmission. Surely you know those little circular robotic, vacuums cleaners that go around the house cleaning the floor by themselves. Do you remember these ones that appears in memes with cats, in internet? So the first answer is, do these robot vacuums use artificial intelligence? Or in terms of the definition I just shared you in the screen, do those machines perform any task that requires a human cognitive load? While you help me answering this question, let's focus on other components on the screen definition. Why does it say AI with ML? ML stands for machine learning and is the most widespread type of artificial intelligence today. It is one that can not only make decisions to reduce human cognitive load, but is designed to learn from large amounts of data and adapt its task according to its learning. So let's go back to the question. Let me see the chat here. if you remember those little robots, vacuum cleaners, answer in the chat if you think these little robots use AI. To answer the question, let's go back. The short answer is yes, because the most advanced ones of these vacuum cleaners not only have the ability to perceive their environment, through cameras or infrared that measure the dirt on the floor, but also to change their path or vacuuming intensity because of it. In other words, these little vacuum cleaners are semi-autonomous machines because they need a human to turn them on or intervene in certain times. Are machines capable of making decisions in the specific field of floor cleaning, capable of learning and adapting according to what they perceive. Some of them use artificial intelligence. Thank you, John Wicks, for answering. Robo used AI. That's it. Thank you. So they need human in the room. That's why right now they are semi-autonomous. They are not autonomous by themselves. They need a human in some occasions. So today, these are machines capable of learning, and there are machines capable of learning in more complex areas than floor cleaning machines. There are image recognition, there are audio and transcription, and even language recognition. But we talk about this later on today. So let's go to the next slide. This slide, I use a lot these slides in my conferences, but we can in fact make a whole dissertation about this slide. But the question here is how did we get here with the AI in 2024? The bottom line is that we librarians have been helping computers understand human knowledge almost from the moment we invented. So we help create standardized languages for creating database like SQL, for example, or for tagging websites component with HTML, all with our experience organizing human knowledge, especially with models like Dewey or Universal Decimal Classification Systems. Even the algorithm that founded Google's revolution as a search engine, PageRank, is based on bibliometric principles. Remember that? Science to metrics and bibliometric principles. In relation to this, let's see how old are those of us who came to this conference today. You can see by my hashtag that I'm very old. How many of you remember searching the web through Alta Vista? Answer in the chat. Did you search in Alta Vista a couple of decades ago? Do you remember what operators you had to use to have effective searches? Emmet say yes, Svetlana say yes, thank you. Ivana say yes, Alif, Elena, thank you for answering. Do you remember what operators do you have to use to have effective searches? Do you remember that we have to use minus, we have to use XOR, NOR, you have to put in quotes? Do you remember that time? How different is it how we search for information today? And how is this related to AI? That's it, Emmet. That's it, Emmet. It's Boolean operators. That's the name. That's the technical name of these operators. That's right. And we're still using it on databases. Remember? We're still using it on some databases, but it's different to search the web today. So let's go to the Sofia Maduro tell us that I remember the first computers coming when I was at library school. Sofia, that's nice. I remember that my first computer, I used my first computer in the later 80s when I was a little kid, and there was these big computers with green screen. You have to keep with you these diskettes, these big diskettes to do everything. Do you remember? It was very, very complicated. In fact, they don't have mouse at that time. So let's see these slides that we have on the screen right now. You are watching right now how many information do we produce every minute in the day of the day in internet. Going back to Alta Vista, Do you remember that in Altavista you could browse the web by categories? Do you remember? That when you have some time, you can go there to Altavista and then you hop to the areas of the web, and then you go back to history on the web, you go back to arts in the web, and you can browse by categories. It's just like a library catalog with catalog cards. Do you remember catalog cards? I used to use catalog cards where we could find the library's material organized by authors, titles, or subjects. And then along come Google with a claim that surely sounds familiar. If you go to Google, if you go to the web page google.com and click on About Google, you can see that google.com mission is, they say, our mission is to organize the world's information and make it accessible and useful to everyone. Sounds familiar, that for you? Yes. Humans had the pretension almost since the beginning of history of finding a place from which we could access all our knowledge. We used to call it a library, the library of Assurbanipal, the great library of Alexandria, the Polotlet's Mondaneum, to name just a few examples. When Sir Tim Berners-Lee designed the World Wide Web, he imagined it as a huge library. Will it be possible to do something like that today? Will it be possible? Camila, if you go to, let me show you, I can show you live here. If you go to google.com, you see, this is the About Google page. When you go to the google.com page, this one, you see About in the upper corner, upper left corner, it's About in English. If you go to google.com in Spanish, it's in the lower left corner, the acerca de in Spanish, About in English. And then if you go there, you can see that the mission of Google, as you see here, is organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. That's the Google mission, you know, by the beginning of Google. So let's go back to our slides. So you're seeing right now here, as I told you, the amount of information that we produce in 1 minute right now. Let's look at this graph on the screen for a moment. It's an annual study that conducted by the DOMO agency, which calculates the amount of data we produce per minute today. Look at these impressive figures. Tell me which one surprises you the most, of which one you will like to know. You sitting there are producing data because of the amount of sensors that we are all wearing. You have a smartphone. And when I say wearing, I mean your smartphones, your smartwatches, and even the way you are watching this conference through your YouTube account or Zoom account on a web browser where you are authenticated with your account. Do you get the idea? You are producing information right now. So the key today with this, in a world that is oversaturated with information and that is constantly producing new data, we cannot classify or organize all the information that is produced, and even less to store it in a single space. It's about connecting it semantically. That is to say, we are talking about the automatic or semi-automatic creation of meaning through the relationship between one piece of data and another piece of data. In other words, we're talking about the automatic or semi-automatic creation of meaning through the relationship of one piece. So the question is, do you think that we can achieve this? How do we achieve this? One of the questions I will leave up in the air today is this one. How do you think we can achieve this as librarian? We can semantically connect information that is around in the web. On the other hand, why does the parenthesis that you can see there in the slide state that we can now, thanks to the digital format, measure everything? What does this have to do with the semantic linking of information? What does it mean that everything can be measured today? Few of you and of us stop to think that the obsession of the digital world is not the screens or fingers or to activate them in any other interfaces. The obsession of the digital world is to measure everything, because everything is expressed in bits. Yes, in bits and bytes. It is the sensors, digital by design and ubiquitous today, that give us access to enormous amount of data, which we generally do not take advantage of, by the way. So what kind of sensors are we using in libraries? And this is when we connect with the title of this IFLA meeting today. RFID is one of the technologies that we already use in libraries, allowing us to measure many things beyond the inventory of items. If we add it to those other technologies that we see on a screen, many of which we already wear or have in libraries, such as GPS, Wi-Fi, or Bluetooth beacons, what could we measure? Tell me. What could we know with each one of them separately? Or what could we know by crossing the data between them? Think, for example, of heat maps to know where people move in our spaces. That is possible with Wi-Fi today. Or the ability to know how and where materials move. That's just for starters. We have already a lot of sensors in our libraries today. And so let's talk about the real problem with that. The problem is not that what we can measure, because we can measure almost everything, but it's what we can analyze. This had to do with the task we perform in libraries and how we allocate our time to accomplish them. Especially in the global south, librarians are directors, catalogers, managers, organizers, reference clerks, and even cleaners in our libraries, right? So it's very difficult to have the time to analyze any other data about any other thing than our materials on the libraries. And I leave 3 questions up in the air on these slides. I hope some of you can answer me in the chat. How are you measuring the use of your library services? Are you measuring the use of your library service? How are you measuring that? How are you studying your library users and your community? How are you measuring social impact and return on investment of your library? That's 3 very good questions. Let's go to the next slides. And let's connect this one with AI. So this is where we reconnect with the world of AI today. That Ray Pan already told you about the LLMs, right? Although we have been developing AI for 70 years now, because it was the first use of the term, it was in the 15th of the last century. We have had a hype in the last 2 years from 2022, mainly due to one thing. And the thing is that we have taught machines to produce natural language from our questions or instructions, technically called prompts, also made in natural language. The thing here is about natural language. OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Facebook Llama from Meta, or Mistral have been born, just to mention the most powerful AI chatbots today. And since we are short on time on these conversations, I'm going to ask just a couple of questions to what I consider the best implementation of a chatbot with AI available today, for free, I must say, or in a freemium model. You know, everything is freemium today. It's a mix of free and premium. You can access some, capabilities by free, but you can pay if you want a pro model. So let's go to my favorite one, my favorite implementation of a chatbot today. I'm talking about Perplexity. Did you heard about Perplexity? Let me show you. Here is Perplexity. This is Perplexity. So I have this prompt for Perplexity. I already write this prompt here, and I tell Perplexity, I'm Santiago Villegas. I give the context. I give the full context of what we are doing today. Then I activate this Pro. This is very important that you activate this Pro switch to make it the AI work with Perplexity, and then I just start. As you can see, usually Perplexity asks me any other questions before give me the answer. What is the level of expertise of the librarian you're targeting? I just say that you are beginners, intermediate librarians about AI. I'm talking about AI. I send the answer, and then the AI here interpret, if you can see here, translate this question that I have to search keywords, then found 20 sources, and then developed an answer, a coherent answer, with some sources that you can go there and you can see. These are some courses that you can take, and I will give you this link of this conversation at the end of my slides, because this is only the introduction. If you can go and know more about AI, you can go here, and these are some courses, some free courses that you can take about AI and libraries. So we're talking in English right now, but what if I want to know from some courses in Spanish? I can ask another question in the same conversation. I can ask, what about some courses in Spanish? It's like a conversation between two humans. You have to act with AI as if it were another human. You can ask him a question behind another one because it's a conversation. And then I ask him that. They just ask me again, are you looking for courses in Spanish related to artificial intelligence and libraries? I'm looking for courses. I have to say courses of AI and libraries. Okay, so I sent, and then it did the same. It did the same thing that we just say before, and you can see that answer in Spanish. It's very different from the other one. So let's go back to our slides, because I want to give you the homework to take some courses just after you take this conference. So let's go back here. Let me share the slides again. Okay, and this is the slides. Okay, so I have a couple of minutes now. This is the next slide. Of course, there is a huge number of generative artificial intelligence. As Raypan told you before, there's a kind of artificial intelligence that we call generative artificial intelligences. These are called Gen AI, as you know, in short, and these are the kind of artificial intelligence that generates something, that creates something. For example, ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude generates language, generate text, but some others generates, for example, audio. Here in this prism, you will find artificial intelligence that are not only to converse with, or to translate, or to summarize, or develop academic and creative writing. You can also create images, edit images, videos, transcribe audio, create synthetic voices, read text or audiobooks with artificial avatars, etc., and even generate music. So the first homework to you is to click on this prism and then to search for one of those or a couple of those AI and try it in your library. So sorry, I clicked there. As you see, when you have a presentation by me, you always will find a lot of links in my presentation. So I just click in the prism and then take me to the generative AI. So let's go to the next slides. The next slide is this one. This is about the library processes, and this is very important. The library processes where we can use AI right now. I'm talking about right now. I'm not talking about 2025. I'm talking about 2024 April. You can go tomorrow to your library And you can see in another courses that we have here, that we have about AI. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I change my screen to Perplexity again, you can see that one of the courses that will Perplexity suggest to you is, is this one, AI in libraries. And if you go to the sources, I mean in Spanish, I'm talking about Spanish right now. If you go to the sources of this answer, the sources are always in the upper part of the of the answers in Perplexity. You can see that there's a lot of different web pages where you can learn about libraries and AI. But this one is the one that we create, and I mean Cristian Maturana from Chile and we create this page for you, AI for libraries. This is in Spanish, sorry for the English spoken world. It's because we are Latin American. You can see this is the AI for libraries, IA para bibliotecas in Spanish. But you can see here a free and open course with 8 hours talking about AI. And I mean free and open course, okay? So you can go there and you can see it in our YouTube channel. And of course, you can subtitle in English if you want. And you can ask me in my social networks if you don't understand something. But it's free. It's about 8 hours on library processes with AI. So I will go back to the slides because I don't want you to today to have too many information about AI. But these kind of processes are the processes that we talk about in the course. And I have some very good news today. You are the first one that has this big news. We're gonna update this course in April. So if you connect with our social networks right now, I mean AI for Libraries social networks, you can in April take this course live. In middle or late April, we will update this course and we will make it not only by 8 hours, but by 12 hours for free and open to you. So to end today, I have to end soon because I know Helen is talking me about the time. So the fundamental question that you have to ask when you're implementing AI in your library, these are two fundamental questions, but the first and the most important question that you have to ask is, what is the higher purpose of my library? What does my library exist for? Some of you are probably thinking, okay, Santiago, is to give access to knowledge. That's what some people tell to me. That's what libraries were created for. But I'm sorry that I contradict you. The question is not to give access to information or knowledge, but why are we given this access for? What do we want to achieve in our communities? What do we transform in them when we give them access to the right knowledge? When we have this clear and explicitly expressed in our libraries, it will be very easy to determine where I will use AI to get closer to my purpose. But you have first to determine your purpose. Which AI will I implement and how to finally get to another key issue? How will I use the time that AI frees up to leverage the human component in my library? And here comes the central message. Stay tuned for the final. You have to exercise empathy. You have to exercise empathy and enhance creativity if we want to stay close to our communities, if you want to be, as we are, a center for community development. You have to be a trained librarian with a powerful heart like a search engine, as you see here in this poster. And let me read this little paragraph. Exercise the empathy in the libraries has to be with the opportunity to expand our horizons, to question our beliefs, and to discover new nuances in the amalgam of perspectives that shape our reality. It's about diversity. It's about talking in different points of view. It's about active listening. It's about authentic conversation. This is a space that no artificial intelligence can emulate or replace today. So you have to be more humans than any artificial intelligence can do today. And that can't be replaced, not this year, nor at the end of the history of humanity. So thank you very much. These are my social networks. Thank you again for the invitation, Helen and CPDWL. To continue this conversation, my social networks and my email you can see here. And there's a photo of me where I show that not long ago I had hair, a few years ago, you can see. So the QR code that you see takes you to some of my recent presentations or newsletter, as well as to my page. And if you remember the first slide, there was another QR code. I didn't tell you, but I sure the most curious of you scanned and took this first QR code, and you are seeing right now the presentation that we have seen today. Let me repeat you the first code. Let me show you again. This in the upper right corner is the QR code that brings you to this slide. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your question.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so thank you very much, Santiago. You can stop the sharing right now. Thank you so much for Santiago for the very enlightening and thought-provocative presentation, and your expertise has surely enriched our understanding. And let's now move on to our Q&A session. And let's see. Okay, so it is my pleasure to introduce Janet Leber-Ramos, who will lead our interactive Q&A segment. As the chair of the Latin America and the Caribbean Regional Division Committees at IFLA, Janet brings an extensive wealth of knowledge that will undoubtedly enrich our discussion. So Janet, we are all set for your facilitation of the Q&A session, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you, the ponents, for the excellent presentation and information that you share with us. After listening the both excellent presentation, we will move to the question and answer section. We have some questions for the speaker, and we will try to cover them in the next 10 minutes. So the first question is for Dr. Penn. And the question is, in what ways do you foresee generative AI tool affecting employment, including your own, on those in the library sector?
Thank you, Jeanette. If I'm understanding the question correctly, it's about the jobs. Is that what it is? Can you repeat it again?
Yes. Let me see. Yes. In what ways do you foresee generative artificial intelligence tool affecting employment, including your own and those in the library sector?
I think there's a word there I'm not understanding. You said freeze?
Foresee. I think is affect. I don't know how to say it in English. I can put it in the chat if you can see it. Yes. Sorry. Okay. Here.
Oh, foresee. Oh, I see. Foresee generative AI. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So I think the issue is that the tool has been used to complement a lot of the work we've been doing, right? So whether you're in digitization or in technical services, but now I think the public services aspect is really interesting, as I mentioned. So it will end up maybe taking away some of the day-to-day work. So if more libraries are able to set up their chatbot, then you might not need to have a virtual reference with a live person, right? Or if more libraries might set up some sort of process where they can catalog resources that are not restricted in copyright. Let's say maybe government documents, for example, that's often open, and you have something like a tool that could catalog government records that are digital born. That could definitely save a lot of time. But then the thing is, what would you like the people to be working on, right? If this is something they used to do that takes quite a long time. So that might change into different roles for those folks, maybe in government documents or in cataloging or in some other ways that they will have to do more different types of work. And so for the work we're seeing in libraries, it's definitely changing. For us, in my institution, we are really centered on the human connection too. So you cannot use these tools to replace teachers. I mean, it's just not the way we're seeing right now. Actually, a lot of schools don't even have libraries. So that's the issue here. A lot of school libraries do not exist. So there's been a lot of challenges. But the tools themselves will be used as part of the lesson plan to complement the learning. But many of the classrooms don't even have computers or stable Wi-Fi, right? So there's a lot of basic information needs and technology needs before the tool can actually affect a lot of the employment stuff.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, well, I have another question. I'm going to Santiago. It's a question from the chat. Where can we find the quote on Google? This is the question.
Okay, thank you. I think I already show you that is in the web page google.com. You can look for the about section. Yeah. And then you can see the mission of Google. That is different from the slogan. The mission is to organize all the knowledge, and that connects with our mission as librarians. But as I told you, I think that's the difference from Google, the libraries from Google we have, is that our mission is not to give access to knowledge and information, is to discover what the information and knowledge can transform in our communities and explicitly go for it. Okay, so our mission is to create library services that empower the people in our communities to, to keep the transformation ongoing because of the knowledge and information that we give access to in our libraries.
Oh, thank you so much, Santiago. And I have another question for Dr. Pan. The question is, from a library's perspective, what are the principal concerns associated with the adoption of the AI tools?
Yeah, I think I named one, and certainly surveillance is one that we need to think about when we're using these third-party tools and how they collect information from people, and they are not neutral, meaning that these tools have a for-profit interest, and so we should be mindful of that, just like any other tool that we use. So the tools that also can affect some access issues. So we're talking about equity in terms of the disparity of access of who has access to these tools and know how to use these tools compared to those who don't, right? And so what issues will that create in the long run? Especially some universities, let's say, have access to subscribe these tools or encourage the usage, while maybe some of the other do not. So then it creates a question for us to think about: how do we ensure people have access to information, how to use them, but also use them carefully. And then there's, of course, the issue of copyright. The copyright, that is one that is a thorny issue. It varies country to country, certainly, but what we're seeing is a lot of infringement issues that I mentioned in some of the lawsuits. And is it something we need to think about using these tools that use copyrighted information and a violation too?
Okay, so thank you so much. And this is a question that both can answer, and it's about a debate debate that we have right now, and is when we ask for information from, example, ChatGPT, who do we cite? Because we know that ChatGPT take the information from many places. So it is correct to cite ChatGPT?
That's a very good question. If Ray allow me to answer this one,
Yes.
I always say that ChatGPT is like Wikipedia on steroids. So you can see when you ask ChatGPT, you can see how the article is creating in real time. So it's like you go to Wikipedia and ask for an article that is creating in real time. But if you are a good librarian, you never cite Wikipedia. As let me tell you, Wikipedia is very good, but you never cite Wikipedia because you go to the sources in Wikipedia. You use Wikipedia just as an interface between the sources, the original sources, and the answer that you're looking for. That's how ChatGPT connected to the internet works. And I have to give a little parenthesis here, because you can't and you should not use ChatGPT in the free version to ask factual questions. Don't do that. Don't ask ChatGPT in the free version for citations. Don't ask Claude in the free version for citations. That's why we go into Perplexity, because Perplexity is an implementation of ChatGPT that is connected to the internet. So ChatGPT, think on ChatGPT or Claude or any other chatbot like an Android caged in a library. Okay, so you have a very smart Android that is caged in a library because you want that Android to understand the language. So you lock it in the library, and then you ask him to read all the books that you have in the library to understand how to speak in English, in Spanish, or in any other language. So the Android will read all the books in this library. The purpose of the Android is to understand the language. It's don't, and you have to hear this, is not memorize the library, is to understand the language. It's very different. And do you remember when you learn how to read when you are in your school? Do you remember your textbook, the textbook that you use in your school when you are learning to read? Maybe you remember some examples of these books. In Spanish, we have some examples like I love my mother. We call it Yo amo a mi mamá in Spanish. Mi mamá me mima mucho. My mother gives me too much care. It was examples of a textbook when we are learning how to read. But if you are a human, not a machine, you don't remember all the book, you don't remember all the examples, but you know how to read, because the purpose of that textbook was learn you to read, teach you to read. That's the same on the Android like ChatGPT. The Android does not remember all the books on the library that they use to learn the language. If you ask the Android, if you ask ChatGPT for a citation, they will not remember it. It's not designed like that, okay? So you have to use ChatGPT outside the library. You have to take with you ChatGPT and put it on a web browser. For example, Bing.com, Copilot from Microsoft, Perplexity. These are implementations of ChatGPT or Claude by web browsing. So you can ask those ones for citations or references of bibliography when you're doing a search there. But don't do that with the free version. So I will not cite by any reasons Perplexity or ChatGPT or any other in my work. I will say if I use it, for example, to improve my text or to improve a summarize or to do something like that. But if I want a factual answer, if I want a scientific answer, I just use ChatGPT as an intermediary. to go back to the original sources and then to read it there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
just say.
you. Yes,
I'll say-
yes, yes. Yeah, I don't have much time, but I want to hear that what Dr. Pan can say about that.
Yeah, no, I think it comes down to if you're looking at the types of publishers, so and the types of styles like APA, MLA, Chicago, right? They're developing guidelines and it's changing. So but some of the journals and some of the other platforms, I can't keep track of it, but some of them are allowing usage of AI and some aren't, right? So you have to really be careful. But the way it's created, there are guidelines right now that's much more clearer than last year about how to cite this tool. Is it personal communication or are you not allowed to use it, etc.
Thank you so much. Thank you both for the question. We have other question, but we don't have many time. So Helen, go ahead. Thank
Please
you.
go
Yes,
to our
thank you.
social networks and we will answer there. Right, Ray have a very good social networks too. You can search for him in LinkedIn or something.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Janet, Santiago, and Ray for the contribution to our Q&A sessions. And then, yes, I know the time is overrun a little bit, but I still want to express my sincere gratitude to all the speakers and participants for their priceless input. And it's now my honor to ask the chairs of the 4 IFLA Regional Division Committees to offer us a summary of the central lessons and insights from our webinar. So first, we will hear from Janet. Janet Ramos, the chair of Latin America, chair of the IFLA Latin America, yeah, and then we will move on to Saif Aljibar, the chair of the IFLA Middle East and North America Regional Division Committees. And then it comes to be Ayanda Labali, chair of the IFLA Sub-Saharan America Regional Division Committee, and followed by Arturo Cement, chair of the Europe Regional Division Committees. So yes, Janet, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Helen. So I want to say that artificial intelligence is here to stay. We are going to continue listening to the topic. The number of artificial intelligence tools is going to continue to increase. So libraries have to begin to see all the benefit that they offer us and learn about where we can apply them to improve, where we get the most out of it. And we must always take into consideration the challenges they represent that the speaker said, such as copyright and something like that. However, there are guides that are implementing right now, so we in the library can adopt it or copy, ¿verdad? To apply it in our library. So it's time to learn more, inform ourselves more, and apply them to improve our performance and the service we offer in libraries. We have to the future and continue transforming our library. So that is all that I have to say.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you. And Saif Algebra,
Yes,
chair of
yes.
the Europe East and North America Regional Division
Thank
Committee.
you. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Ray and San Diego, for the inspiring talks. Really, we enjoyed your talks. Well, when it comes to artificial intelligence, I think it's something that we should live with and we should use. I remember when ChatGPT was announced, especially academic in our institution were freaked out and they said, well, let's ban it. It will spoil the education. We cannot give the exams. It was a big chaos. But our advice to them is to live with technologies, try to use it the best way you can, because the world is going that way. And for us librarians, I think we should be pioneers in that. We should learn how to use and how to teach the use of these technologies to our users, to our academians, to our students, to our community. because I think partially they depend on us for that. And of course, we should use it in our services as well, because that will improve our service and it will help us a lot. And the question was Santiago was asking that about statistics and doing the analysis of the statistics. Things get, we have a lot of burden, as he said, as a librarian. And hopefully, with the use of these technologies, we can, they can help us in some of these analyses. Of course, we do collect data from our users and from the machines that we are using in the library. For example, the RFID counting, the magnetic doors counters. We do use these statistics, and we do use. They help us in libraries in getting a view of our users and their habits in the library. So what to conclude is that these, as Janet said, these technologies here to stay, and we should learn how to live with them, and we should use get the best use of them in our works and in our services. Thank you.
Thank you, Saif. And then we will have Ayanda Labale, Chair of the IFLA Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Division Committees.
Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you, Ray and Santiago, for the beautiful, intelligent presentation. It's human intelligence. I loved the way you caution us as librarians to reposition our view of our library service provision. How can we tap on artificial intelligence so that we reposition our services and we enhance our services, particularly metadata creations? I liked that. And I also appreciated when you say it's artificial intelligence is here to support us as libraries, support us as librarians. So because we cannot afford to hold all the information that is needed. So we must learn how to use artificial intelligence to help in serving our users, because we don't have all the information that they need. That is an eye-opener to us, I think, particularly in Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Division, where most libraries don't have all the content, or in some schools, as I think it's Ray who mentioned that some schools don't even have libraries. So we need to be there, be the intermediaries that we need. So we will train ourselves. And Santiago, as you say, a trained librarian is a powerful search engine. We appreciate CPDWL for continuing building us as the human search engines. And we will eventually make our users realize that particularly where you say we need to rethink plagiarism. We need artificial intelligence to empower ourselves, and we need to empower our users to see it as a positive development. I thank you.
Thank you, Ayanda. And then last but not least, we have Arturo Semen, Chair of the Europe Regional Division Committee.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Helen. First of all, I would like to thank you for organizing this kind of session about this important topic. I would like to also thank our both speakers for their inspiring and informative presentation. I really enjoyed their presentations. AI is a hot topic in the European library field, as well as in other part of the world. As librarians, we are attending several training sessions and workshops about AI almost every day. Last week, we celebrated our 60th Library Week in Turkey, and almost half of the events organized were dedicated to AI technologies. And during the week, all of the aspects were discussed in detail about AI technologies, and one of the biggest discussion about our jobs. And there was a discussion about our jobs, and some of the library professionals were thinking that we are going to lose our jobs with these new technologies. But in my point of view, these are just tools. So we have to learn how can we use these tools more effectively, then we will get more powerful. And in my point of view, the next library generation will be super librarians. So I also want to express that as IFLA Europe Regional Division, we plan to continue and develop our cooperation with you as CPDWL, and as we have done before. And a big thank goes to participants for their interest and participation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Arturo. And as we conclude today's sessions, I wish to convert my deepest appreciations to all participants for their engagement and thoughtful input. Special thanks are due to our speakers, of course, Dr. Rapin and Professor Santiago Villegas-Ceballos for their stimulating talks, and to Janet Labonde-Ramos for her skillful moderations of the Q&A sessions. I'm eagerly thankful to the chairs of all the four IFLA Regional Division Committees for their insightful summaries and the collaborative spirits they have cultivated throughout this webinar. Special recognition goes to Janet Labonde-Ramos, Said Ajibi, and also Ayanda Labalai and Arturo Simon for their valuable contribution and advice for today's discussion. And to all our attendees, your questions, active participation that truly enriched this session. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for joining these critical conversations on transforming libraries in the age of AI. Your involvement is what makes events like this both possible and successful, and thank you for the contributions to this dialogue. As we prepare to conclude, I encourage you to stay tuned for the upcoming CPDWL communication. Keep an eye on our emails and social media channels for updates on various CPDWL events, including our next webinar scheduled for the September 11, 2024 on open science. So thank you once again for joining us. I wish you a very joyful Easter holiday. Goodbye. Adios. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, and thank you.
Gracias.